Good morning, Yasha Allah, and good morning to our world out there. Today we come in the name of Hamashiach, according to the opening statement of the Revelation, the revelation of Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, the one who bore the sin of the world. In his name we come, because of the goodness of the Father, Yahweh, through the eternal Ruach. We come to share a word with you, particularly with the 12 tribes who are still in tribulation and striving by the grace of our high priest and Malak to end this misery and stand with the Lamb upon Mount Zion. So as we go into this lesson, the title is Amalek and Unclean Foods. Amalek and Unclean Foods. Our opening scripture is Shemoth 17 and 16. Shemoth or Exodus. Exodus 17 and 16. For he said, we're reading the opening verse of scripture, Exodus 17 and 16. For he said, because a hand is on the throne of Yah, Yah is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. I read it one more time for good measure. For he said, because a hand is on the throne of Yah, Yahweh is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. All right. We will pick up some of our meditation. Well, it's a little bit more than a meditation. This is warfare. And we will pick up some of the material for our lesson from the book of Anuk. You know that the bastard tried to rename Enoch, but it is Anuk, one of our forebears, whose work we ought to be studying intensely at this time. We have already uncovered a whole lot of depth of revelation from Anuk, and we give thanks unto our Mashiach, our head, our high priest, and Malak, our king. So as we continue to thread through Anuk and offer revelation according to the Ruach of the Most High and Mashiach, we give thanks again because of the hand that is, because of Yahweh, his warfare against Amalek, whose hand has been on the throne of Yah. And you know and what we call modern times today, we, the scattered of the 12 tribes, in particular of the house of Yehudah, Judah so-called, we have suffered tremendously at the hands of Amalek. And according to the book of Jeremiah, Esau had him in hiding. It was hiding real good, so that it appeared that he could not be found, or found, that is. And he was really exercising a campaign of warfare and destruction in the whole earth, with particular emphasis on the 12 tribes, and could not be excavated because he really was hiding deep. But we're thankful to the Ruach of the Most High that he has been flushed out. And now we know exactly who it was that destroyed, who crucified the Mashiach with the help of Levi. It's Amalek, the bastard. And so let's get a closer look of review on this bastard. We are actually studying Amalek and unclean foods. For the unclean food proposition is, as has been, a key element in the destruction of the 12 tribes. And what I find amazing, as there are other points of interest and issues concerning this matter, what I find interesting is that as we thrash out the matter of our enslavement for 400 years, and we're still having issues because of this hand that has been on the throne of Yah. We're facing issues because, for one thing, today, even today as I speak with you, we have, I would venture to say, a whole lot of brethren, but I will limit my comment to, we have some brethren and what we might consider high-level brethren, even teachers of the faith, who are really in an effort, making strident efforts to include Esau in the kingdom. I don't need to call a name. There's no need to call a name, because it is self-evident in the rhetoric that is being put out by these brethren. Maybe it is done in innocency. Maybe they really don't understand how dangerous a foe they are in combat with, how dangerous the foe is that has enslaved them for 400 years. And if we remember the protocol of the Trump and Biden election, according to the information that was put out, although they knew, and Trump himself actually heralded the ending of the 400 years of enslavement, they were well prepared to carry the 12 tribes into a 500-year enslavement program. This is I think it is common knowledge of what they had planned. After 400 years debacle, they were going to add 500 years on top of that. And so I'm smiling. I seem to be smiling, but it is a grave matter that this Amalek, who was leading the tribes, who was leading the dukes and kings of Edom, all were taking their cues from Amalek and assisting Amalek with his secret program of hiding himself in plain daylight, in plain view, hiding himself. But if you take a cue from my view of the portrait, if you will, the portrait of Lyndon Johnson down to Biden, you will see the striking resemblance of the features in them. And that features that you see, as it is with the features of the French. Same feature. That is Amalek, who, along with Levi, handed you the proposal of the 400 years and brutal, unheard of, destructive, I might say, remaking of the tribes, turning them inside out. This is the work of Amalek in the 400 years enslavement. It was Amalek at the helm of government in England. I'm saying it this way because I at the moment I'm convinced that Amalek has been at the top of all the governments. He might not have been at the top of all of them, indeed, but the very chiefest of them. England, for instance, and France, yes, France indeed, that spearheaded the enslavement process at the behest or with the direction of IT and the Voodoo campaign. We find also that in the enslavement process was the contamination and reordering of our intake of food. Of course, you know, Yasha Allah knows that we have had injunctions, I guess, but warnings, directives on how to manage our food supplies and food intake, what we should and should not eat, according to the books of Deuteronomy chapter 14, I believe, and Leviticus 11 chapter. Your brothers can go and look these chapters up. I mean, because I think it may be possible that you haven't really checked with them for a while concerning the dietary laws and foods, meats in particular, that we should not be consuming. Right before we get into the Leviticus and Deuteronomy meat eating scenario, we like to share with you a little word from Anuk. Anuk, from page 69, page 89. I'm sorry, page 84. Page 84 of Anuk's book. Page 84. And this is the teaching on the chief of the Balakims. We know the Malaccans came down from the Shemayim where they resided. Well, in fact, they came down from the Shemayim that was a part of their residence after having been booted out of the Shemayim. And from Mount Hermon, they made their way to the earth and began their destruction by, plotting the downfall of Adam and his lady, Hawa, who, according to the Apocrypha, and in the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, in verse 23, I believe it is, that shows that it was the envy of Gadriel as the leader of the tribes of the fallen hosts who came to the earth and down from Mount Hermon and gave the protocol of turning over the rulership of the earth into the hands of Gadriel. And so we're going to read a little bit from Anuk. And one of the most interesting, well, it's all interesting really, but I'd like you to take note of this short passage in the book of Anuk that describes the hierarchy of the Malaccans. On page 90, that deals with the chief of the Malaccans, as Anuk shows us. The Malaccans that came down, I forget the number of them. I can find it, but I won't look for it now. How many there were that came down, the number that bound themselves to the oath to corrupt humanity. And so when we look at the chief of the Malaccans, that crew that came down, we see on page 90 of Anuk that discusses the chief of the Malaccans. This is that group that came down on Mount Hermon, the chief of them, as the names are given. It shows that the Malaccans on a whole have three rankings, three principal ranking. And it's this. The first or the highest ranking is the Seraphims. That's a word that we know very well. The Seraphims, those are the six-winged Malaccans. These were the, I guess I could say these were the top of the warriors. Matter of fact, you find in Isaiah chapter 6, I believe it's verse 6, dealing with the days of Uzziah, when the prophet saw the Most High in such splendor, such splendorous an appearance, that he cried out, "Woe is me! I am undone, for my eyes have seen the King, Elohim of hosts." And he was afraid that was it for him. But then he said, then flew one of the Seraphims, Isaiah chapter 6, and took a live coal with the tongues from off the altar and touch me. He said, this has touched thy lips, the live coal from the altar, taken by the Seraphim, the top level of the Balakims. He said, this has touched your lips now. You're okay now. Now who will go for us? And whom shall I send? It wasn't the Malakim that answered, it was Isaiah. But of course, with the vision of the Malakims, Isaiah was confident that he would have a helper with the Malakims from the top level, the Seraphim. All right, the second level is the cherubim. The cherubim, as we see from a principal view in the book of Hezekiel, where we get a close hand view of Gabriel and find out that he was a four-winged cherub among the cherubims. I'm still out to discover or find again the cherubim that was the chief of the cherubims, and Gabriel was second in command. But he made his way to the top, I guess we could say, and was let loose to create all the havoc that he has brought about in the Shemayim and upon the earth, and in the midst of Esau and Esau's bastard son, Amalek. Gabriel, the cherubim, four wings, is the one who's been leading the charge. When you look at the Masonic paraphernalia and you look at the Baphomet, what Esau was careful to do was to disfigure the image of Baphomet. He's got the pentagram in the forehead, but he disfigured the wing configuration and shows him with two wings. But he's a Malakim of four wings. So there's 6 wings, 4 wings, and you have the 2 wings that are the Ophanim. Ophanim, Ophanim. So if you don't have a book of Anuk, you might take those names down that you can have a memory of who you're facing when you in spiritual warfare and battles. You have seraphims, cherubims, and the Ophanims. So those are the hierarchy of the Malakims. When we go back to the proposition of foods, well, right before we do that, let me stay here with Anuk and give you some information on the chief of the Malakims. Chiefs of the Malakim. It says in in the 69th parable, page 84 of Anuk, that at the bottom paragraph, they will terrify and make them to tremble, because they have shown this to those who dwell on the earth. I think it is referring to an interaction between the Malachims of the Most High, those righteous Michael and Gabriel and Raphael, I think, those brothers who are in cooperation with the Most High and with us. It says they will terrify and make the Balakims who are concerned with the warfare of Satan. They will terrify and make them to tremble. This is what Raphael and Gabriel will help to accomplish among the evil ones. Because they have shown this to those who dwell on the earth. If you have the book, you can go back and pick up the story and get a fuller comprehension of what is being said here. And behold the names of those Malachims. And these are their names. The first of them is Semyaza. All right. The second, Artakifa. And the third, Armen. The fourth, Kokabel. The fifth, Turael. The sixth, Romiel. The seventh, Daniel. The eighth, Nekwael. The ninth, Barakel. The 10th, Azazel. The 11th, Amoros. The 12th, Batariel. The 13th, Bosaziel. The 14th, Hananel. 15th, Turel. And the 16th, Simsabeziel. The 17th, Yethrel. The 18th, Tomael. The 19th, Torel. The 20th, Romael. The 21st, Azazel. These are the chiefs of their Malachims and their names, and their chiefs over hundreds and over 50s and over 10s. Once again, in the teaching of the Malachims from Anuk, page 85, that speaks about the chief of the Malachims. On the teaching of the Malachims, the name of the first is Jequan, or Yequan. He is the one who led astray all the sons of Elohim. I repeat, the name of the first is Yequan. He is the one who led astray all the sons of Elohim and brought them down to the earth and led them astray through the daughters of men. Sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, they were fair and took them, made wives of all that they choose, as we see in the book of Bereshith from chapter 6 on. And so Anuk is giving the first-hand account that Esau smears over in his offering of the story of the fallen Malachims. And whereas the view of Esau, of what's the bastard name? The bastard Amalek has cast the understanding of the fallen Malachims into a view that make it seem that these were Malachims who were righteous and who were on the side of the Most High. They weren't. These came down to corrupt Adam and Hawa. That's the real view that Anunnaki is bringing forth to us. And so we can repeat. The name of the first is Yequan. He is the one who led astray all the sons of Alahayim. These were fallen sons. They were no longer sons in the true operative sense of the word. These were fallen Malaccans. So their sonship was lost. And it's Esau who tries to make it appear that they were in good standing by calling them sons of Alahayim. They once were sons, but they threw that away. And it brought them down to the earth and led them astray through the daughters of men. The second was named Asbeel, or Asbeel. He imparted to the, and here again is the corruption that Esau says. The second was Asbeel. He imparted to the, and he called it holy sons of Alahayim, evil counsel. You see the contradiction? Esau calls them his word holy. That would make us think that the word holy means individuals in good standing with the Most High, a false representation. And these were fallen Malachims, to be sure. He imparted to these fallen ones evil counsel, led them astray so that they defiled their bodies with the daughters of men. And it comes to the subject of weapons and names the name of Satan, whom we know. The third was named Gadriel. He it is who showed the children of men all the blows of death, and he led astray Eve or Hawa, and showed the weapons of death to the sons of men, the shield, the coat of mail, and the sword for battle, and all the weapons of death to the children of men. From his hand they have proceeded against those who dwell on the earth from that day and forever. So we put a cap on this excerpt from Anunnaki for the time being, and return to our discussion on the unclean foods. We make a short presentation on the unclean foods, and most likely will return to build our information based on this impartation. Remember, the principles behind the unclean foods and the 400 years enslavement of the 12 tribes are Gadriel, as Anunnaki gives us his true name, the name that we have been led to represent as Satan. But we didn't understand that he was one of the group that came down from on Mount Hermon to deceive Hawa and Adam. That's the part we didn't get. And so these watchers, evil devils, evil beings, destroyers that came with Gadriel and Satan, were the ones who were ruling Esau. They were Esau gods. These were the gods of Esau. And the Horites that Esau married into. And hence he says that his progenitor is the woman. That's where he based his beginnings. He takes his cue from the woman. This has been said over and over, and it ain't new. This is what the Jewish base their national heritage on. That their chief progenitor is the woman, because the woman was a daughter of the Horites, demons. And therefore, it is clear that Esau has taken or have taken his cue for national and family development from the Horite clan, the demon clan. As he has, been used by them in cooperation with them. He conducted the 400 years enslavement and whatever else in his arsenal of destruction towards the 12 tribes that he has done. This is where it comes from. But we concentrate on the dietary obstruction that Amalek, the Jewish, what they have done to corrupt our dietary programs that we need to come back to. And so we have had a difficult time separating ourselves from the unclean foods. And uppermost in my mind right now are foods like turkey, salmon. There are a couple of others. Crabs. So you can think. You can help me think about it. And you might remember some of the food, the unclean foods that we have been consuming. The swine. I hope I mentioned the swine. This was the chief of Esau's list. The hog, the pig, the swine, chief of his list. Christmas ham, Christmas turkey, all these unclean and destructive foods that we have been consuming, that we need to put down. I have had my struggles, putting them down with the swine for long years. I think as much as 30 years, maybe more. I put the swine down. All right. I had my issues in the area of the turkey, because even when I stopped consuming it, I was being told that it was all right to partake turkey and salmon in particular. But the Ruach of the Most High has led me to the conclusion, without the knowledge of medical science, that these foods are harmful to us and should be put away. Of course, I've heard brethren, those brothers and sisters, to some degree, talk about these particular foods and recommend it to leave off from consuming them. We must renew our determination to find out concerning these harmful foods, to put them away. For all these, and there's some passages in the scriptures I think between Isaiah and Jeremiah, one passage that talks about the children of Yasha'Allah, uh, you know, hiding, hiding behind, I think, high places or groves, and consuming the swine and the mouse. These things that are these unclean things, foods that our people were being led to consume. And I think that our people themselves were drawn into consuming these destructive foods because of their relationship with the satanic and demonic, because of Amalek's direction. They were drawn to associate themselves with the world of fallen Malachims and adopt their teachings on unclean foods. So I invite you, brethren, to help me search the books, for instance, Deuteronomy chapter 14 and Leviticus chapter 11. I think it's a couple chapters, 11, 12 for sure, maybe 13, that cover the subject of unclean foods. We need to check him out at this time. We have ample time. The Mashiach is giving us time to get our house in order. Our houses, then, if you will, throughout the diaspora and throughout all the tribes. Let's look into our eating habits and see where Gadriel and Amalek, the chieftain of Esau's army, see where they have led us astray. The Frenchman, the nasty, dirty Frenchman with Levi, led us into captivity on ships. Nasty, despicable Amalek got the privilege to lead astray the people of the Most High. Imagine that. But the Mashiach is gracious and has given time for us to consider and reconsider our departure from the ways of truth and righteousness, and to reintegrate ourselves unto the truth and find cleansing and healing and renewal for the purpose of the kingdom that he rules and shall rule over in the near future. In his precious name, we give you this word and say, may the Most High, Yahweh, bless and keep you. In the name of Mashiach, may he cause his face to shine upon you. Be gracious unto you. Lift up the light of his countenance upon you, Yasha'Allah. And those who, are willing to become inheritors of this grace and of this kingdom. Well, right before I quit, I want to make mention of the fact that there are many of our brethren today, as I'm speaking with you, who are concerned with bringing Esau into the kingdom. You should hear them. That the Most High says that the heathen can come in, and they're making room for Edom, while Edom is busy cutting their necks off from reparations, cutting off their ascension, into a better way of life. This Edom is doing Amalek and his brethren all the factions of Esau. This is what they're doing. But you have our people who are the inheritors of the kingdom under the Mashiach. They are certain that the Mashiach, whom Esau has denied from the very beginning and refused his righteousness and his Torah, to this day, striving right at this very moment as I'm speaking with you, their whole aim is to destroy the kingdom order. This is their great secret. And they're nudging and inching and getting brothers to vouch for them, to say that they could come into the kingdom while they're busy destroying it, taking it down if they could, inch by inch. We got to get it right, Yasha Allah, and stop the nonsense, stop the foolishness. How could you let an angry beast into your home? Doesn't the scripture tell you that? I mean, how can the robbers spoil your house unless he overpower you? You allow him. You're encouraging Esau to have power over you and to have entrance into your kingdom that he is eternally out to destroy and to destroy you with it. But you're talking about, oh yeah, he could come in because the Mashiach shed his blood. He could come in. Who shed his blood? Esau. Who's still sharing the blood of the Mashiach through his people? Esau. And you're trying to let him in. You're trying to let him in. You're trying to open the door. But the Mashiach says, behold, I have set for you an open door, and no man can shut it. And the door I open, no man can shut it. And the door I close, no man can open it. Peace to you. Shalom. To the family of our Mashiach, by whom we are named. So let it be. Malakkata.